Today I'm going to tell you everything you need to know to set up the perfect diet for shedding body fat. From how much you should eat, to what types of foods you should eat, to how often you should eat, and everything you need to know to make sure you're only losing body fat. We're going to cover it all. Hey, this is Colin Away. If you want to master your metabolism and get in the best shape of your life, start now by subscribing and click on that bell notification so you don't miss anything. Alright, maybe you just finished a bulk, maybe you've gained a little bit more weight than you wanted to. And you know what? I've done it. I've done the bulk gone wrong, but I've been able to go from this 210-pound mess to what you're seeing, which is me currently sitting over 40 pounds lighter as I get ready for the physique stage for the first time this fall. So make sure you stick around to the end of the video because I'm not only going to talk about some of the things that I've done to get these results, but what you can do to get the results as well. And it's not as hard as you think. Trust me, if I can do this at 40 years old, you can too. Alright, I'm sure one of your first questions is going to be the same question that most people ask, and that is, what food should I eat in order to get the best possible results? And let me tell you one thing real quick. I'm not saying it doesn't matter. However, I am going to say that nothing compares to how important your total calories, or more specifically, your total macronutrients are versus any actual foods. If you aren't aware, your macronutrients are your protein, your carbs, and your fat. And since your total macronutrients are what matter the most, we need to know how much your maintenance calories are, so we need to dig into that before we can give you the best possible plan. So hopefully you already know your maintenance calories, but if you don't worry, we can get it, and we're gonna help you do that right now. A lot of people would refer you to some sort of online calculator. I'm not a big fan of doing that because you know what? They're just taking stats and they're just doing math, but it's not specific to you and your genetics and your dieting history, and everything about you is unique, and these calculators cannot know everything about you. So it's gonna be a much more accurate way of doing things is to take the next week or so, if you haven't been tracking, and just eat exactly the way you've been eating and don't change anything, but track it in an app such as MyFitnessPal or MyMacros or Lose It, or any tracking app that you like and prefer is fine, but you just want to start tracking. After a week of doing this, you can just look right in the app and it'll give you the average of that week time, and this will tell you exactly how much you've been eating. And if you've been maintaining your weight, now you know that this is roughly your maintenance calories. But if you've been gaining a little bit of weight, that's okay too. We can make some simple adjustments. But before I tell you exactly how much you need to be eating, there's one really important thing I need to cover first. Remember, as the title states, this is about losing body fat, right? We're not on some quick fix plan to just lose a bunch of weight. You want to make sure you hang on to all the muscle that you already have, and making sure that we just lose body fat is a critical component of that. Not only that, but you have to remember that your metabolism is adaptive, and if you start losing weight too fast, your metabolism is going to slow down and adapt to these lower calories, thus making it much harder to continue to see results long term. So in order to make sure that you're basically only losing mostly body fat and to keep your metabolism in as good a place as possible, there's a few things we need to keep in mind as you're setting up your diet. The pace of your weight loss, the macronutrient breakdown of your calories, and the types of foods that you eat. Let's start with the pace. What I typically recommend if you want to make sure you're hanging on to your muscle is losing about between 0.5% and 1% of your total body weight on a weekly average. Now, if you're someone who's obese or has a lot of weight to lose, it's a little bit different and you can take a faster pace because you have more fat to go through. And in that scenario, you can lose about 1.5 to 2% of your body weight on a weekly average. Alright, the next thing that I mentioned is your macronutrient breakdown, and this is where knowing your maintenance calories is really critical, and how much to eat is by far the biggest factor in actual fat loss. Now, one thing that we do know is a pound of fat is roughly 3,500 calories. So in theory, if you were to take a 500 calorie deficit 7 days a week, 7 times 500 would be 3,500, that'd be 1 pound in a week. However, I do find that to be a bit of an oversimplification, and our bodies are really complex and not just simple math equations, but it is a good starting point. I find that once most people have their maintenance calories, if they do drop around 400 to 600 calories per week, plus do a little bit of extra cardio, this typically puts most people around the 0.5 to 1% drop in weight per week. Of course, it just varies a little bit by each individual, but that's usually a good starting point to see how things go. Now, if when you were establishing how much you were actually eating, you were actually in a calorie surplus and gaining a little bit of weight, then you might want to add another 100 to 300 calories on top of that to make sure that you make up for that surplus and get yourself into a good deficit. Keep in mind, these calories aren't going to work forever either. It's just a starting point. Remember, the metabolism is adaptive. You're going to start losing weight and carry around less mass, and you won't have as great of a need anymore for extra calories, and therefore you're going to have to make adjustments as it goes, so just kind of keep that in mind. When you do hit a true plateau, I do recommend reducing your calories by around 1 to 200 to get things going again. Or in some instances, a great strategy can be to take a diet break and increase your calories around maybe 200 to 500 and get them up to around maintenance calories, and then give your body a break. It helps boost your metabolism a little bit. It helps get your hormones back into a better place and put your body into a better position to be able to see fat loss again. Now, the next thing we need to consider is our actual macros and food sources, and I'm going to give you my recommendations, but make sure you keep watching because I'm not only going to give you general recommendations, but I'm also going to show you exactly what I've been eating to help me get my personal results as well. First, I'm going to start with protein because protein is by far the most important macronutrient for you to hit and make a big part of your diet. A higher protein diet will help you maintain your muscle mass better. It will help you feel fuller because it's the most satiating macronutrient. It has by far the highest thermic effect of food of any of the 3 macronutrients, which, if you're not aware, the thermic effect of food is basically how many calories your body burns just processing the food that you eat. So protein has about a 25 to 30% thermic effect of food, whereas carbs is about 5 to 8% and fat is only about 2 to 3%. So do not skip out on your protein. I personally recommend eating about 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, even up to 1.2 pounds in some cases. However, if you have a lot of weight to lose, then you may want to do something more like a goal weight, and that's going to be a little bit more reasonable, but more protein is definitely going to be helpful. Some examples of foods that are high in protein and low in carbs and fats are things like skinless chicken breasts, turkey breasts, egg whites, lean beef, whey protein, many different types of fish and seafoods, as well as low and non-fat Greek yogurt and dairy products. Once you have your protein macros set, now what you're going to want to do is set your fat macros, and you're going to want to take between about 20 to 30% of your total calories in fat. If you prefer fat over carbs, make it on the higher side of things. If you prefer carbs over fat, then make it on the lower side of things. Some examples of foods that are high in fat are things like nuts, seeds, oils, avocados, olives, nut butters, and whole eggs, which are also high in protein. So now that you have your protein set up and your fat set up, all the remaining calories that you have now go towards carbs. And some examples of good sources of carbs are things like potatoes, oats, rice, fruits and veggies, pasta, rice cakes, and breads. Now, these food sources that I'm giving you are just examples of sources of foods that are high in those macronutrients, but there's nothing magical about them, and nothing matters more than your actual macros. However, that doesn't mean that food quality doesn't matter. It certainly does. You absolutely want to fill most of your diet with high quality, high nutrient dense whole foods, because these foods are going to give you micronutrients. They're going to fuel your body properly. They're going to make you feel better. They're going to help you perform better, and they'll probably help you feel fuller as well. Plus, not only are things like fruits and veggies very healthy for you and filling, but they're also going to be higher thermic effect because they're typically going to be higher in fiber, and fiber, much like protein, has a very high thermic effect of food, sitting around 25 to 30%. Now, with that being said, I do want you to be cautious here because yes, food quality matters and you definitely want to eat healthy, but at the same time, if you get too extreme about it and you don't allow anything in your diet that you enjoy, you could set yourself up with a really bad relationship with food and find that you end up having binging tendencies, and most people tend to rebel against diets that are a little bit too restrictive. So if having a little of something like ice cream and fitting it into your numbers is going to help you feel good about things and help you stay on plan, I'm all for it and absolutely encourage it. You just probably don't want to make it a huge part of your diet. Now, another option that can be helpful is maybe you eat mostly clean throughout the week, but then you have one higher calorie day, or like a refeed approach where you can eat more food and enjoy some other stuff that you wouldn't normally be able to do, but you just do it once a week. Now, a lot of people would call this like a cheat day or a cheat meal. I just think it's better to do an actual refeed approach where you still have numbers to hit, you just have more calories for that day, and you can kind of keep things from getting out of hand, because an actual like cheat day can completely blow off your entire week if you're not careful. In fact, an approach that can work really well for a lot of people is keep your weekly average the same, but you just take away calories throughout the week and then just give it to one day. So say, for instance, 6 days a week, you take away 100 calories from your normal, and then you just take those extra 600 calories and put it on top of one day so you can eat more food and enjoy a little bit more that day, but still stay within your weekly average. Now, since we're on the topic of actual foods, there's one thing that very few people think about, but in my opinion is extremely important, and that is if you have any potential food intolerances. If you are intolerant to any type of food that you're eating more frequently, it's going to mess up your digestion bad. And if you have bad digestion, you're not going to be properly absorbing the nutrients that you're taking in. And this can lead to worse results for many reasons. One being you're not absorbing the nutrients. The other being you're not going to feel as good. You're going to have lower energy. Your performance is going to suffer. Even things like sleep and sex drive can take a hit if you're not properly digesting your food. I found out last year that I was intolerant to gluten. And man, what a game changer it was for me to finally take that out. And I felt like a completely different person. And I just just did everything better once I took gluten out of my life. Okay, I promised you that I would tell you what my eating looks like right now and what my macros are like, so I'm going to do that, but just please keep in mind, my macros are specific to me. These foods that I eat are not magic. It's what I choose to eat to fit in my macros, and also keep in mind that I am gluten intolerant, so you have more options than I do as well. Right now, I actually have a high and low day approach. I have 5 low days and 2 high days, and I'll give the macros that I'm on right now and I'll put them on the screen. But for the sake of what I'm actually eating, I will give you a low day plan. So one thing that I like to do that is kind of like a bonus tip that not a lot of people talk about is I like to actually repeat my meals, and I eat the exact same breakfast and the exact same lunch almost every single day because I find that it just really helps simplify my life. So for breakfast, I typically just have nothing but a protein shake, and then I'll usually have a coffee with it with a sugar-free creamer as well. The reason I only do a shake in the morning is because I typically am not that hungry in the morning. I never have been, so just getting a protein shake in, it helps me hit protein synthesis right away in the morning to get that spike in, but it's not really filling, so it's easy for me to get in, and it allows me to save more calories for later in the day when I typically am hungry. Now for lunch, this is the other meal that I typically repeat, and what I like to do is make a big batch of chicken breast in the Instant Pot, and then I shred it up, and this way it's just available all the time, but it's also pretty versatile because you can do different things like add different sauces and seasonings to it depending on what you're feeling like that day. So right now what I typically do is about 5 to 6 ounces of chicken, and then about 70 grams of brown rice. I'll mix in about 10 grams of chia seeds for things like digestion and getting omegas in, and then I'll also typically do around 200 grams of broccoli or asparagus with that to get a good vegetable in. And then depending on what my dinner is, I might add a little bit of olive oil to this meal as well if I'm not going to be getting much fat in for the day. By the way, in case you were wondering, typically my lunch is my pre-workout and my dinner is my post-workout. So I actually don't do a shake or anything post-workout, I just eat when I get home. Now dinner is the meal that changes most frequently because this is when I eat with my family, so it's going to be something usually along the lines of some kind of meat and a side. So we're pretty basic here. We don't do a lot of different crazy meals and things like that, so it makes it pretty simple. So typically we're doing something like chicken or turkey or lean beef or pork or fish or shrimp, and then typically some kind of side like potatoes or some type of grain like rice or quinoa, and then a veggie, or we might do like different types of stir fries and mix a bunch of stuff together. It's typically something like that, but this one changes quite a bit. And then I have one more meal as well, and that's before bed, so I can get one more spike in protein synthesis in. Typically this is going to be something like egg whites and maybe some whole eggs if I need some more fat, or if not, I'll literally just do another protein shake and maybe a protein bar. And then typically I'll do things like chocolate rice cakes and some fruits, so maybe like a peach or plum, and some berries. I love berries, so I eat a lot of blueberries and raspberries. And then if I need more fats, I'll eat like green olives because I love green olives, or I'll eat some cashews or some type of nut to get some more fat in, and just whatever I need to do to round off my macros, that's what this meal is for. So that's a pretty typical day for me. Of course there's variation in there, and what my family likes to do is we like to go out Friday night and have dinner, so that's kind of like my high day and my cheat day. It's not a cheat, but we do like to go out and have fun. I'll usually have a drink or two with dinner, and that's my way of being a little bit more flexible and having fun, but also sticking to my goals at the same time. Now you may have noticed that that was 4 meals. I like 4 meals personally because I find that eating about 4 to 5 meals a day spaced out about 4 to 5 hours apart is the best for building muscle based on some research. I have a different video on that. If you're interested, I can let you know what that is. But for me, that's what I'm doing. Since I'm in show prep right now, I want to do everything I can for maximum muscle retention, but I also want to state that there's nothing magical about it. And when it comes to actual fat loss, what matters most is your total macros for the day, whether you like 2 meals, 3 meals, 4 meals. I even know some people that do 1 meal. As long as you're hitting your macros, you're good to go. If you'd like to know more about setting up cardio for a fat loss phase, then make sure you check out this video, and I will tell you how to go through the entire process from the start of your cut, all the adjustments you need to make through it so you can go through an entire fat loss phase with efficient cardio. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below and I will be sure to get back to you, and I will see you next time.